Well, hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first ever Breakfast with Boom in 2022. That's right. This is the first episode. We are finally returned to start your Friday mornings off with a lot of fun, a lot of gaming news, and of course, the best place to start your Friday and early weekend. Welcome. This has been I tell you, man, it's been packed with news, and we're only into the seventh day of the year. And Microsoft has been dominating the conversation once again. Obviously, we got the big news that I had dropped a special edition Xbox Factor podcast that both Crispy and Fuzzy were a part of the other day, where we got the Rainbow Six Extraction news, where that's dropping into Game Pass. We also got where Ubisoft Plus. We've been hearing about it for almost a year, and it is now official that is coming to Xbox. But for today's program, folks, we're going to be talking PlayStation VR 2. We're going to be talking, does Xbox actually need its own VR? And of course, we're going to open the show with some sad news for anyone that was looking to potentially go to E3 2022. But before we get into the news, let's get into the introductions. We'll start first with our very special guest, Fuzzy Belvedere. Welcome, brother. How you been?
Thank you. I've been good. How about you?
Oh, good. Yeah, nothing to complain. So, like I said, I'm not complaining because it's snow, but Crispy Bomb has another theory.
Yeah, we got a little bit of snow out here today, and luckily the boys got up early enough to be the shovel team before they logged into virtual school today. No more snow
Nice.
days like we used to have, but yeah, glad to be here. Some exciting stuff coming up, and man, you got an awesome panel here. Boom. Love we
Well,
got Crispy and Dreadpool on here, so yeah, this should be awesome.
Well, it's great to have you a part of it as well. And listen, we're going to get into it very shortly. Next up, Dreadpool, brother. First of all, how you feeling? And second of all, what have you had for breakfast? Because I know it's usually a very popular question.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I am feeling great. I am excited for today. This is our first day back for the
Yes.
new year. So, Happy New Year, everyone, that I haven't said to out in the Twitter world and all that fun stuff. Um, I had to cheat today. I went and got a couple hash browns from
Th-
the,
Nothing wrong with that.
arches.
Hey,
But,
speaking of hash browns, hard to find here in New York for some reason. Three supermarkets didn't have them. I'm quite disappointed.
wow,
Ouch.
you
Yeah,
should really write them a
you know
letter.
what? I mean, all jokes aside, I do the shopping because Mrs. Boom is working. I'm retired, so I handle all the housework and stuff. And as someone that goes into Stop and Shop quite often, man, those cupboards are starting to get a little bare, a little concerning, to be honest.
They need some letter writing. You need to scold them
Yeah,
politely that they don't have what you like to shop for and eat.
well, I'll probably go to like a little local market and get it. But listen, great. It's great that you had it. Did you enjoy your hash brown, sir?
I did. They were nice and
Excellent.
fresh, which was surprising. So you never know what you're going to get with these arches over here.
Well, listen, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And last and no way least, the best voice in the business, the one that I have a funny feeling is going to be returning, or actually not returning, showing his wares in the next years. At least I'm calling it now. Crispy Bomb, what's up, brother?
What's up, Boom? Great to be back. What a start to the year. I mean, you can't believe how great the beginning of this year is. And man, Microsoft must got a lot of stuff to say down the road because to be dropping this early, man. Woo. But yeah, we're gonna get into maybe some things people might not agree or disagree with, but I think it's needs to be said, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of people already. First of all, we got over 100 people here, only a few minutes in, and there's a lot of talk. Oh wow, man, Asa from Game On Daily has joined us. Asa, what's up, brother? He's in the chat. Thank you for stopping by. You definitely got to get you and Gaz on, and listen, if you're not subscribed to Game On Daily, you're doing it wrong. Those guys are great, and they're like bookends. Asa is the one that keeps everything on the track. And of course, Gaz is the lunatic of the bunch. And they're like the odd couple, but it just works. But listen, folks, let's get into the ESA news that dropped yesterday. I have the press release right in front of me. And listen, yeah, I mean, we got a bunch of news that popped. And this one, look, I've been to only one E3. Fortunate enough to have been schooled in the ways of actually knowing how to get there were my brothers over at the Iron Lords. I went and hung out with them for nearly a week and got a chance to experience my first E3 in over 40 years of gaming. I've only read about it. I've only covered it, obviously prior on the show from, secondhand videos and stuff. But I actually got a chance to experience it in 2019. And of course, thanks to the incredible generosity of Gotham Guy, who has become a good friend of mine, I got into, of course, FanFest, which was, I'll tell you this right now. E3 is a big show, and there's a lot going on, but the best experience that I personally had is the way Microsoft treats its fans. It was bonkers how up close and personal you get to their executives who are all there handshaking and autographing and talking with you. It's an incredible experience, and unfortunately we are not going to be able to experience that once again due to the COVID concerns. And this is what the Entertainment Software Association, short for ESA, had to say. Here is their exact quote: "Due to the ongoing health risks surrounding COVID-19 and its potential impact on the safety of exhibitors and attendees, E3 will not be held in person this year for 2022. The ESA also said in this statement to GamesBeat, "We remain incredibly excited about the future of E3 and look forward to announcing more details soon." So I'll start with Fuzzy on this. Fuzzy, you, my friend, had the idea that you might be attending it E3 this year, like a lot of people.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we are going to be doing what we did last year, and most of the big ones, I would imagine Microsoft and potentially even Sony are going to be having their own digital events. And some people are a little upset by that. And I understand, because I'm one of them. I intended to go. But here's the thing. When it comes to what's going on with the Decepticon variant that is raging across the world right now, I was saying in the pregame that when I go to take out the garbage, I put my mask on. And when I'm done, I spray my mask with alcohol. I spray my shoes because, I don't want to get sick. And I've been boosted. I've been, I've gotten both shots and then the booster. And then apparently there's going to be one in the spring, another one. So I'm trying to be as careful as possible because, you never know, each person is going to react differently. So when I sat back and I thought about it, I said, man, I'm in New York. And it takes me 5.5, 6 hours on a plane to get over to California. Yeah. Do I really want to do that? And that's the question. And the answer for me would have been probably not. I would have been saddened by it, but
yeah.
You have to do things and be safe about it, especially when you're talking about risk and reward. And that's how I've always been as a person and more so as a police officer. You got to weigh them. What's is the risk worth the reward? And in this situation, the answer is no, it is absolutely not. What are your thoughts on this? Well, it's a cancellation of E3, but it's a cancellation for in person as opposed to digital. What are your thoughts on this?
I was a little bit disappointed, only because, like you said, this was one of those years. This would have been my first year to actually be able to attend, to have, being retired, have time off to be able to go down there. The closest I've ever been to something like this is SEMA, which is like the equivalent, but for the auto industry. I was really looking forward to this, but given what's going on out there, I totally understand. I mean, disappointing, yes, but honestly, it's for the best, I guess, at this point, because you don't want to have that many people in such tight constraints and stuff with everything that's going on. It's probably for the best, just from a safety standpoint. But hopefully, fingers crossed, next year it's a little bit different. Hopefully, we can kind of kick the C word out of our vocabulary at that point. But it is what it is at this point in time. But man, I was so looking forward to it, but totally understand the circumstances and what's going on and whatnot. It's in all honesty, it's probably for the best, just for everyone that would want to go in person, type of deal.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree 100%. Real quick, let me catch two super chats that jumped in very early. I want to thank everybody for that, and of course, Dreadpool, thank you for dropping that into the private chat because sometimes you miss them, and that bothers me when I do. Aaron JF94 drops an outstanding, very generous $5 super chat and says, "Hey, I think Xbox should go all in on VR if they decide to add it. Quality, aggressive price, performance. Love y'all. Following Jaguar 49 is my gamer tag." Yeah. So first of all, thank you for the generosity, Aaron. Definitely want to say thank you for the support. And his gamer tag is following Jaguar 49. That's pretty. It's pretty unusual. Love it. And Andy,
Flowing.
what's that?
Flowing.
Oh, I said following, flowing. Thank you,
Sorry.
sir. And Andy Hart drops a £5 super chat. Brother, thank you so much for that. He says, "Happy New Year, Booming Panel. And everyone would love VR on my Series X. I indeed as well. I definitely think Xbox should make a VR headset." Yeah, we're gonna. That's one of the. That's on the back end of today's program because we're gonna transition from Sony, where I don't think they're doing it right, and we have some opinions on whether or not the new Horizon game is going to be a pack-in or 7611 here, and it's Sony, so you kind of know what they're going to do. But Dreadpool, let's get your opinion on this, brother. This is disappointing news, but it's also for the best, I think, considering that it doesn't look like COVID is slowing down. And I mean, I know it's the strain, according to my doctor, is 1/10 the power of the original one, but people are still dying. They reported yesterday that 130 people here died in New York State and yesterday, and that is a lot of people. What are your thoughts?
Well, when it comes to this, you got to do what you think is right and don't be judging others as to what they think is right. Okay, so we got to remember that. All right, we are human. We all will make mistakes, whatever. Okay, but that being said, I do want to go to E3. I was wanting to go this year. Would I have been able to? I don't think I would have been able to. But maybe I could have pulled it off. It would have been nice to have that option. But no, it's not going to happen now. So even if I even said it last year, right? Do a little bit of a mix where you kind of keep some people separated, so that way you don't have as many people confined, and you can allow people to come in and go through and kind of see the people that are there locally to be able to see the event and then get out, right? And then still have your digital event, so that way the rest of us that couldn't go can go there and see it digitally, and have a opportunity that way, right? It's disappointing, but at the same time they got to be safe. They got to think of how many people go. You look at this year with CES, you look at how many people are there now.
Yeah.
Right? And you still have a line for Starbucks. There's still, a huge line wrapped around however many blocks it is to go to one, to get your coffee. And it's nothing like it used to be. For something like that, you'd be there all day. So, if they can do some sort of population control when it comes to the events and allow people to get there, it would be great. But unfortunately, they got to think of the safety for people. They don't want to be responsible for anybody's deaths. Even though they're not directly responsible, they held the event. So unfortunately, they're going to be responsible because they held the event. Now, like I said, we all got to figure out how we're going to be safe about this, and to each our own. But yeah, it's disappointing. I really wanted to go there. I was expecting to try to figure out how to get there and see Boom. I wanted to see the Lords. I wanted to see.
Yes, you know what?
I mean?
You know what? To your point, Dreadpool, I'm glad you brought that up. You see, because for me personally, the most rewarding aspect of E3 2019 wasn't FanFest, right? It wasn't me going into the Fortnite booth, which was incredibly impressive, right? It wasn't playing these games for the first time before anyone else. It was meeting the people. It was actually taking pictures and hanging out and having a drink. I don't drink. I have a Dr. Pepper, but you know what I mean? Just hanging out with and meeting people in real life that you've actually worked with in podcasting. And I think to me, that's the missing element.
No, and I experienced that with the Amico Fest this year in July. I got to meet Mike Mullis from Next Level Gaming.
Oh, that's nice, dude.
He's the one that told me about it. I got the inside scoop. I met a whole bunch of cool people that were part of that group. I met a whole bunch of people that were not part of that group, and I still talk to one of them today. He's got another YouTube channel, Game Complainers. They're a smaller channel. They do their own thing. They're not on topic like we are, but they do stay on with topics of their own, and it's you meet all these different personalities and stuff. I had one person that was like hanging out with me the whole weekend and had no idea who I was. And they're like, oh, can we get a picture? And I was like, all right, yeah. So I took a picture with them in some other Facebook group, right? Didn't know these people, but everybody was kind. Everybody was cool, generous, courteous. You know what I mean? And it's like you became friends with these people. And then like I said, after the fact, the guy's like, oh, I like your shirt. And I was like, oh, thanks. He's like, how'd you get a Deadpool shirt like that? And I was like, that's not Deadpool. It's Dreadpool. It's my logo. You know what I mean? And the person that asked to get, to get a picture with those people turns around. She goes, oh, you're Dreadpool? You know what I mean? It was like,
that's awesome.
Had no idea who I was, but at the same time, didn't matter. You know what I mean? And that was the best part about it. We made friends with the families. And this is why, E3 for me was going to be like, yeah, it's going to be cool to be there, but it's more of hanging out with the people, like you said, the people we work with, the people we talk with, the people we're actually friends with online. And that to me is more of a bigger deal that I'm missing out on. I'm missing out on the networking of our friendship.
100%. But listen, it's really cool when you get to meet people for the first time. Especially like I said, if you've worked with them and all you've ever seen them is a picture on the screen, it's pretty awesome to get pictures and hang out with it. I actually got noticed, and it was actually I was embarrassed by it. Someone heard my voice, and they're like, "You're Mr. Boomstick," and I'm like, "Yep, I sure am." And can I take a picture? And I'm like, "Sure." I'm nobody, but okay. You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot of fun, and I think that I miss. I think we're all going to miss that once again. But for safety reasons, it makes perfect sense. Crispy, let's get your opinion on this. Did the ESA do the right thing?
I mean, they had to do it. Let's be honest. It's one of those things where they don't want to seem liable or anything like that. And at the end of the day, the lawyers are probably like, "This isn't a good idea right now." I will say, being a retail worker, never having the choice not to be around people, there is a point in time 2 years later now. It's almost exactly 2 years that I got it and didn't know it was what it was. We got to get to the point where it's either we're going to accept it, have the vaccinations, they're there, just like the flu, or we're just going to continue to be in limbo. That is my humble opinion. I understand if people don't agree with it, but there is a point in time where we're either going to choose to go back to somewhat normal, or we're going to just continue this. I mean, we're 2 years later. This is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And being somebody that, up until just 2 days ago was unvaccinated and had it twice. The second time was much nicer than the first, which is,
sure.
And boom, I think you had it almost nearly the same time I did those 2 years ago. So, the first time was rough. Like I thought, I need to go to the hospital at certain points, but they didn't want you going if you didn't know that. Once they started figuring out what was going on, like I called the hospital. I'm like, I think I need to come in. Or like, unless you can't breathe at all, you can't come in. And I'm like, what? I'm like, are you serious? They're like, yes, there's a virus that we don't know what it is right now that is going around, and we can't have a lot of people. And they're like, they're like, oh, I have asthma. I'm having trouble breathing. They're like, take your inhaler as much as you need to.
Wow.
And I'm like, really? I'm like, they're like, yeah, if you got to take it 20 times, go ahead. I was like, wow. So
yeah, both Mrs. Boomstick and I were sick for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 years ago, two Februaries ago. I mean, it was the worst. You know, it's funny. They said we didn't have it, so I don't know. I don't know if they were wrong or what, because we didn't have the antibodies and we had it checked. And they're like, no, you guys didn't have it. You just had the regular flu. And man, if that was the regular flu, it wiped me out for 2 freaking weeks. Mrs. Boom even more. I think it was 2.5 weeks that she missed work, and she doesn't miss work for anything.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what you're saying makes sense. I think. Yeah.
Well, let's be honest. Like now, they're just started talking about flu Rona.
Yeah, that's what they're calling it.
I do like, you know, it's like this big thing. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, to go to E3, it's not a necessity, nothing like that. So in realism, I mean, if it's going to keep people from getting sick, that's the whole point of not doing it. And we've seen that, you know, these companies can manage this without it. You know, they've come out with some pretty good shows. You know what I mean? So it'll be entertaining. It's just, you know, now I'm thinking like, you know, where I live in Connecticut, I'm like, okay, I know like 20 people around me. I'm almost thinking we got to figure out something. You know what I mean? Like if it's just us, you know what I mean? If nothing's going to happen, like there's plenty of things to do in my area. I got a decent sized house. If we got to do something like that, I want to meet you guys. You know what I mean? And I know it's scary, but it's like, you know, most of us have gotten vaccinated or anything like that. And we could still, you know, have fun and not, you know, be close to each other if we wanted to. But
do you have a spare bedroom?
I do have a spare bedroom.
I got it.
I
claim it first.
But
I don't have to sleep on a couch. I claim it first.
I love it. That's right. He got first dibs, people. He called it live on the air.
So that's what I'm thinking now. I'm like, you know what? I say, because I actually started saving to go there. You know, I had like $500 already ready towards it, and by the time I was there, I would have only had to put in like an extra 500 because I have a come out of my paycheck, and now it's like I got to do something different. Like, you know, I don't even want to go on like, you know, oh, you want to go on a cruise? Like, no, you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna get stuck on it. Like, vacations are like crazy now. It's like you don't even want to do them half the time, and it just sucks.
Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah, it is definitely scary, and you know what I'm saying, all you want to do is enjoy yourself. See, and you know, look, here's the thing, folks. Why I'm extra careful is I'm asthmatic, right? I was as a kid. It went away. As I got older, somehow it came back. And as someone that was like as a police officer for New York City, I took my job extremely serious. And I have a story that is unlike many that you will ever hear, because you don't hear the good stuff about cops. You only hear when they do something stupid, right? Usually the assholes get the press. I went back to the same community I grew up as a kid and became a youth officer and was able to give back to my community. It was the greatest 21 years of my life. No doubt about it. And I used to go out of my way to hunt for the bad guys. Like I went looking for trouble. And thankfully I never hurt anybody. I can count on one hand how many times I actually had to roll with anybody. Because, you know, you are occasionally going to get someone that is just not going to go. Right. But I can count on one hand how many times it happened in 21 years. And I have well over 400 arrests because I treated people like my father taught me, treat others how you want to be treated. So I always wanted to be treated like a gentleman. So I treated everyone that I came across as a gentleman until they made me not be a gentleman. And it wasn't very often that happened. Maybe it was my demeanor. I don't know. I don't want to be one of these guys that survives that kind of career who really went out of his way to help and better my neighborhood I grew up in and get killed by a virus. You know what I'm saying? So for me, as great as E3 would have been for this year, I don't know if I was comfortable enough to do it personally. But listen, I think they did the right call. I think we potentially could see it come back next year. I hope that it does for 23, because that's going to be a big year for Xbox specifically, and it would be pretty dope to be at that fan fest. But I want to move on because the VR talk is heavy in this. So we're going to get through the Sony VR stuff, and I'm going to get into the big question, the big topic of the day, and that is whether or not Microsoft and Xbox need VR. But I have to catch up with some of the super chats, and Don Otaku, welcome back, Don. He drops. A $5 super chat and says, Xbox shouldn't waste resources making a proprietary VR headset, but they should make it compatible with existing VR and PC VR headsets. It would be a win-win. Indeed, and I agree, and we're going to get into that further. Some more super chats popped in. Where are you? Let me see. Okay. Suicide's King. Kings drops a $5 super chat and said VR question mark. Not really a fan, but to each is their own. I'd like to see an unflinching focus on quality games at Xbox if they're not 100%, 120% in on VR pass for now. That's a great point. As a matter of fact, I pulled a couple of very interesting quotes from Phil Spencer that he dropped at the end of last year. Chris R. Hey, Chris, welcome and thank you for the generosity. He drops a $5 super chat and says, on a positive note, the pandemic allowed me to get into a number of Xbox podcasts like yours. That's right, Chris. Keep up the good work, guys. Well, yeah, I mean, there are some definitely high notes for it, but I'm glad that we got a chance to get you in here, and I'm glad that you are, doing good. But let's get into what we have for the PlayStation VR. Now, the thing is this. I said it on the special edition Wednesday version of the Xbox Factor podcast when we got this news from Ubisoft that Extraction would be coming into Xbox Game Pass day and date, and also that Ubisoft Plus would be coming to the console like it is on PC. And of course, that's super, super exciting. But what I said then, I still hold and I still believe right now. There is CES going on, and Sony unveiled PlayStation VR 2.0 specs. And it was like no one cared because that news came and went. And it was dominated once again with Xbox. Xbox seems to be, I'm not saying that the market leader yet, because I think that's going to change come this year. Even with God of War releasing and Horizon Zero Dawn, and those games are going to be great. I'm not going to platinum them because I don't platinum a lot of games on Sony. But Horizon, I'll definitely try because I cannot wait for that game. But I think that they have a good shot if they continue this trend of great news and value for its customers. That they are going to eventually overtake both Nintendo and PlayStation, and we could see a 360 era resurgence from Team Green, but keeping with VR in the conversation. Hey, Big Cloud, brother, welcome, bro. How you feeling?
Doing good. What's going on?
Excellent. We're going to get to you in a second. We're talking PlayStation VR right now, 2.0. And if you missed it, and a lot of people did, I'm pulling this directly from the PlayStation.blog online. And here are the stats for the PlayStation VR. And it says for high fidelity visual experience, PSVR 2.0 offers 4K HDR. It has 110 degrees field of view, and it's foveated rendering. With OLED display, players can expect a display resolution, and check this out, folks, 2000 by 2040 per eye, and smooth frame rates that go as high as 90 through 120 hertz. It's going to have headset-based control tracking. It's going to have a new sensory feature that's new to it. They're going to be supporting headset feedback, eye tracking, 3D audio, and the innovative PSVR Sense controller, as it's called. And they also confirmed that eye tracking for PSVR 2.0 detects the motion of your eyes. So a simple look in a specific direction can, in fact, create an additional input for the game character. Now, that all sounds bonkers. And as someone that is a diehard PlayStation VR fan, I have over 50 games. I don't use the headset as much because it doesn't really, it's a pain in the rear to get it set up for the PlayStation 5.
A lot of wires.
Yeah, it's more wires than the one. In fact, it's quite a wires. And if I were to stand back for a second and say the only disappointing news of what they had to say is that there is still going to be a wire, not for the controllers, obviously,
Yeah, it's the
But
headset to
yeah,
the
the headset
unit.
has to be plugged in to the PlayStation 5 in order to work. So it is a little disappointing. I was seeing, because I literally just had it delivered. I bought the Oculus Quest 2.0. That is, I haven't even set it up because yesterday was too crazy. I couldn't even get a chance to open it, but I'm doing that after this show. Super, super excited about that because I'm a big, 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 big VR fan. But one of the things that we are hearing that are rumors currently right now are two things that are concerning, especially for someone like me. Now,
You ain't the only one there.
yeah, well, yeah, we're actually gonna come to you in a second, because obviously you are our PlayStation representative, and I really am looking forward to hearing what you have to say. One of the things, or two of the things that are kind of concerning for me is this. Back in what was this? January 5th, when this was announced, Stephen Totillo. If you don't know who he is the owner and operator of Axios. And he posted on Twitter something that had me scratching my head and really having a concern as to what Sony is going to do. Now, it's Sony, so I have a feeling that me as a fan is going to get screwed, because that's what they do. And he says this on Twitter, on his official Twitter account. I asked Sony if PlayStation VR 2.0 would be out in 2022 and if it would be backwards compatible with PlayStation VR titles, something many people have asked me to ask them yesterday. And I am one of those people, Stephen. Neither was addressed. And Sony PR very, very covertly says this. They have nothing further to announce at this moment, so simply stay tuned. Look, let me just give you guys the skinny. There's certain things that I buy physical. PlayStation games and Nintendo Switch games, because if I ever had to sell them, if I was ever in a position where I needed to sell them, I could at least make a decent amount of money back. Now, I don't buy Xbox because I don't have the room. I'm in an apartment, so I'm limited to, I don't have a man cave yet. Hopefully in the next year or two that will change. But for now, I have to manage my space. And I buy a lot of games. And plus Xbox Game Pass keeps me from having to spend money because everything is digital. And when I read this, I kind of really sat back and I said, you know something? I'm looking at my shelf, which is right here. And I have physically over 30 PlayStation VR titles. 30, right? Not to mention what I have digitally, and I have quite a few digitally. And I held on to them because we originally thought that, well, in theory, the PlayStation VR 2.0 is going to be just a better version of, right, of the first one. In theory, it should be able to play games backwards compatible and make those games look better and run better, for that matter. A game that runs at a crappy 30 should easily run at a 60, maybe even a 90 or 120 if the headset can do that, and it has been confirmed that it can. So then I said, well, this is Sony. Right now, one of the questions that we were talking about in the pregame, which we should have started this half an hour early, we had so much incredible things to say. Everyone was talking. I had suggested, wow, it would be pretty cool if the new Horizon game, which that in itself is pretty freaking cool. We're getting Horizon Forbidden West in a month, and then we're potentially going to get a sequel of sorts in PlayStation VR 2.0. Oh my God, this is I'm swimming in excitement. Could they pack that in? Well, again, rewind it. It's Sony. So the answer is probably not. It's going to be $70 game. It's going to be $76.43. I think that's what it is after tax here in New York. And we're probably going to get some sort of a Astrobot game, which
you're missing one vital component too.
What's
when
that?
you have a community that literally is okay with paying $70 for games that you already paid for last gen, whether they have with a title on them that says director's cut, that kind of already sets you up for, you know what I'm saying? That you already set the behavior up for what to expect going down the road.
Well, real quick, before we get to your opinion on this, BitCloud, I just would completely missed this, and I saw red as I'm giving my spiel, and I just realized that someone named Question Mark dropped a ridiculous, and I don't think I'm worthy of this, but I am extremely grateful, $50 super chat, and says, "Good morning, fellas. About the whole situation, rather Xbox needs VR. I don't think that they need it. Better yet, want it. Xbox doesn't need to become the PlayStation, and PlayStation doesn't need to become the Xbox." That's a great point. Xbox, they have Oculus, so let's leave it there. We'll leave it at that. And you know something, you are definitely onto something. I believe that you are definitely going on the right track. And like I said, I have an opinion. I don't want to give it now because I want to save it for that. So we'll come back around. But BitCloud, I got to get to you, brother. Okay, so here is CES comes. PlayStation gives us all this information, which is great. We don't have a release date. They won't even answer Totillo's question, because Stephen Totillo, he is a bigwig in the social media game, especially when it comes to video game news, because he's the owner and operator of Axios, and Sony is, like he said, being very, very coy. One of the things that we also heard, and then again, this is rumor, folks. This is not confirmed, that it could in fact be a $500 device. Now, Fuzzy Belvedere has something important to say.
You heard those specs? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't.
Well, that's exactly what Fuzzy said. We'll get to Fuzzy in a second about that. But for you, BitCloud, what are your thoughts on this kind of falling on deaf ears? No one is talking about this news, which is quite shocking considering how excited I am, and I know I am in the minority. We know that they sold 5 million units, and that was confirmed in January of 2020. We don't have any up-to-date numbers. I would imagine it probably sold more since then.
Yeah, it was a success. It just it was an expensive
piece
of hardware.
And again, I have a suspicion that PSVR 2.0 is not going to suffer, because I believe it's going to sell, but I think it's going to sell very similar to the PlayStation VR 1, where it is considered to be niche. And there is going to be an audience that loves it like me, and there's going to be an audience like many people.
I'm glad you said niche, because there's some certain decisions that I think they're going to make for this time around that they didn't do with the first one.
Well, first party development has to be one of those decisions.
Well, not just that though; it's a certain direction.
Okay.
And let me you want me to start out?
Yeah, please. By all means, elaborate.
I want to catch up. So you already see their whole mindset now is everything is pretty much destined at some point to make its way to PC, right? They just confirmed that the Death Stranding Director's Cut is going to PC. We know there are a lot more games that are definitely going to make that jump to PC. So in comes part 2, your VR. And Microsoft doesn't really have one of their own, right? They just rely on the third party, side of things of this. John Linneman brought up a good point about VR2 and how it could potentially go to PC, and that be another avenue for it down the road. I personally think that's something that they're looking into, if you really, really think about it. Like for this, in terms of just bigger engagement, in terms of bigger numbers, in terms of a bigger field to reach more people, this would be it. Now, when you go back to the games not being backwards compatible potentially, this does not surprise me at all, because we had this conversation multiple times. Sony doesn't have this. Yeah, Sony has probably the worst system in play in terms of getting natural upgrades for basic games on the hardware. And this is something that you really never thought you would pay for. But now you got people with this mindset of going, well, these games have to be fine-tuned and all this stuff you got to pay for. It's like the other side is proven, and that is false.
Yes.
None of this stuff. It has to cost us a thing. But the thing is, people go, well, you're getting this extra content. Okay, that's extra content. We're not talking about extra content. We're talking about basic features. Stuff like this. One second. Stuff in this is already programmed in the system, is it not?
Yes.
So why are we paying an additional fee to access this on something you already have? makes zero sense.
Yeah,
but people have this mindset. Oh, but it's quality. I mean, again, you can argue that about anything. Anything could be considered quality. But when you're paying an additional fee for something that you already have and it's already there, it makes no sense for me. It really doesn't. Yeah. Now, when you have when you hear people say like, okay, well, I have this library of games. How weird do you think they're going to feel when they go and get the system and they go, okay,
dude, I am telling you firsthand, I am going to be.
They plug it in.
AF.
Boom. They plug it in. They go, okay, it's a VR headset. It should work, right? Okay, no problem. Let's plug it in. Surely there's a way for this to actually work. Surely there's an upscaling technique or something, right? And they plug it in and says, sorry, this right here is not supported because you need a PS5 version or you need a VR2 version of this disc.
$10 charge.
$10, $20
up
charge.
games.
This is where the mindset always cracks me up, and people don't want to listen. Then they go, "Oh, you're not with it. You don't want you want things to be free." Here's the thing. We've already proven this. We got no problem paying for a game again if we see value in paying for the game again. But if you're talking about just to access it on a system that is more powerful and accessible, and we know it's more powerful and accessible, Microsoft has their system. They showing this. Why can't we access this stuff? It makes no sense. People reward bad behavior all the time, and then they wear like some kind of stupid achievement list on their on their shirts. They go, well, we got these games. Hey, you guys want to do this? We're not like Game Pass. I don't know where people get this mindset. They go, well, Game Pass, this is the problem. Game Pass is giving you options, tons of options. That's it. Yeah. It's always out. It's another way of experiencing the content. I've had this conversation with Kate Yeager before about how people talk about the box now, where they think they put more so themselves into the plastic box without realizing the box is just a means of experiencing the content.
Yeah.
That's all it is. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So when you see Sony breaking the barriers, going to PC, and you still got people on this fence saying that, oh, all games are not going to be on PC. How long do you think this is going to be? Like, I'll be honest with you. How many times have I said this with you guys? I'd be surprised by the end of this generation that this whole time exclusive thing would even exist by the end of this generation. I'd be surprised.
I agree with you there.
There's a formula. Sony, it's not about being loyal. See, that's the thing people need to understand. It's not about being brand, loyal to a brand. It's not brand loyalty whatsoever. It's the market. The market's changed.
Well, it's also the principle. The principle of being a fan of said device or company, having spent your hard-earned money, and I think it's safe to say that it's hard-earned, especially
look at
nowadays.
It like this, bro. Look at it like this, because you've upgraded your internet, you've upgraded your cable over the years, right?
I upgraded my PlayStation VR. By the way, I had the original one, and then when the new one came out, I sold that private, and I got the new model. Yes.
So let's bring it. Let's just throw something like something out here that people will relate to. Let's say how you upgrade your cable boxes to get better channels.
Yes.
Imagine if they came in here with the new cable box and they said, "Sorry, Boom, it's not compatible with your TV."
You'd be pissed. Wait a second. You're saying I gotta go buy a new TV?
You can't get these extra channels because you have a TCL. And we need a 4K
TCL, right?
Sorry,
shout out to King.
Sorry, shout out to King. But you can't access that because you have a TCL. No, that's how it works. For the show. That's how it works. That's the mindset should be. Everybody is so lost in concept. I had this conversation with Crispy. Crispy, you already know how I feel about this. It cracks me up how nobody talks about this, but they're so quick to talk about everything else. They talk about Sony cells. What the hell is Sony cells going to do when a unit drops and it doesn't even work with 90% of the stuff that you bought? I don't get it. I don't. What the hell am I celebrating? The PSVR is selling potential, let's say 5 million units. I don't know the units. I don't really give a damn. But let's say it's sold 5 million units.
It was confirmed in January of 2020 that it was officially they moved 5 million units, which is
it's funny. I just guessed. I didn't even know the numbers. I just guessed.
I would imagine they could have easily done another 200,000 or something like that.
But they sell like 5 million units, and we're hyping up 5 million units, but yet you plug in this damn avocado to your console and you can't even play a damn thing.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
It's definitely concerning. But listen, Fuzzy, let's get your opinion on this, brother. You had a lot to say in the pregame, and I hope that you reiterate because, like I said, I have a significant amount of games. I was under the impression, and potentially it's me being a boob, like, oh, Sony's going to allow me to play these games. Probably not, because and why it's frustrating is, again, I just bought the 2.0 version of the Facebook VR. In Oculus, right? And I have about a dozen games, and I checked, and every one of those games, all I have to do is go to the store. I go to the store, there it is, download, bloop. Vader Immortal, bloop. Beat Saber, bloop, no problem. All the other games, no problem. So why are they allowing me to do this? Because I own the games already. I paid for these games. It's pretty great that they're not.
They expect you to be complacent and buy into the model that's already been set. And ironically, the community has set for them. $70 games is the way, apparently. If you talk down those $70 games, you're part of the problem.
Yeah.
You ask for value, you're the problem. And I'm like, no, $70 for every game. Granted, we'll pay $70 if it's for a new experience, but paying for the same damn game, boom. I know you love Halo Infinite, but are you going to pay $70 for Halo Infinite in a year?
No.
For the additional content, are you going to do that?
Yeah, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't because
it makes no sense. It makes no sense to me. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't even cut you.
No, you're right on point as far as like that's kind of my biggest fear with the PSVR 2. Like the tech specs definitely going to warrant a higher price. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it's 500 bundled or unbundled. Like originally I was thinking maybe Horizon might be bundled, but it's like, no, you're right. They already set the model. So the Horizon would be that game is going to be a standalone for the extra $76 and stuff.
No, there's no doubt about it. Yeah.
But it's, I don't know. For me, anything that crosses that $400 price point at this point is probably a pass at this point. But there will be a good number of those that will pick up this PSVR 2 unit. Something that you kind of hinted to, Big Cloud, would be if they're looking to garner a bigger audience, like with the whole PC thing. If this thing were to work on PS5 and PC, I could definitely see that being a step in the direction that Sony might try and take.
Hey, you know what's funny? John Linneman just threw that out there as like a theory, but you already know what's happening. It's just they'd be a fool to have all these upgrades, right? Just for the chance of it possibly selling as much as the last one. So I'm saying this is one that you want to future-proof. How do you future-proof it? You have it available on another platform.
Yeah,
it's that simple. Yeah, there's other VR headsets out there that probably potentially destroy this, but judge from the specs, this one's actually
one is it's pretty good, dude.
Yeah, it's up there. So it could be another headset that drops, let's say later down the road, but this right here, it would be the top of the line one for now until let's say another one does drop or they decide to make iterations of those. And so, they have a golden opportunity to do this. And when you have Horizon already on PC, you bet your ass, that next Halo, that Horizon game is going to drop on PC as well. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, see, I always kind of joked about like the first real test would be Ben's new IP would be that day and date PC drop at the same time it's coming out on console type of thing. But considering this PSVR 2.0, that new Horizon game might be the one. You can play it on your PS5, not the Forbidden West one. That one they'll
Forbidden West is they'll probably wait like honestly
6 months to a year.
Yeah, I'll say like a year. I don't even want to say 2 years because the way how complacent dudes have become now, a year is they can get away with a year. Yeah, and they don't even understand it. It's like, bro, y'all have lost so much ground. You have no idea how much ground you lost.
No, but with that Horizon VR game, if it comes to PS5 with the PSVR 2 and you can use that PSVR 2 on PC and it's available the same time, I mean, I think that would be I know this is going to go against the Sony code, I guess, but that would be a good a move in the right direction as far as them getting to more of an audience, instead of having people wait. I mean, sure, there's the whole exclusivity type of thing. And I know everybody wants to have those warm and fuzzy special feelings as far as having their game exclusive
did you
to
just
their
say
box.
the Sony code? I'm gonna tell you right now. And take it for somebody who's a PlayStation guy. There's no Sony code. There's agenda pushing.
Yeah.
And people who don't, and there's people who just simply think that they speak for us when the reality is they do the very damn thing that they say they're against.
Yeah.
That's simple. They're like, oh, I'm not going to support a game if it goes to PC. What do? Boom. A new game gets announced. What are they doing? Talking about it on Twitter. And guess what? They buy it day one, and then they show off the screenshot like some damn participation trophy. So much for your cause. And this is why I laugh at the whole thing. It does nothing.
No, but this whole PSVR 2, it's going to suck if it's not compatible with PSVR 1.
It is.
And it was 100%. One of those things where I was on the fence for the longest time on PSVR 1, just for the fact that I didn't buy a PS4 Pro. Kind of missed the chance because my wife wanted her PS4 a little bit sooner. And I was going to try to do like the hand-me-down. She can take my old, launch PS4. I get the PS4 Pro. No, she wanted it a little bit sooner, and just at that point, and then the Xbox One X came out, and I was like, I'll just wait until the next PS comes out. But PSVR 2, it's on my buy list, but if it goes over the $500 mark without a packaged in game, I will probably wait until it goes on sale. I mean, I still have plenty of games to play on my PS5 at the moment, but it is kind of interesting that it's not as big of a focus. I mean, I guess part of it is the fact that they didn't mention the price and they haven't answered all of everyone's questions as far as the back compat is concerned. But in the grand scheme of things, they're at least showing true promise with having something like Horizon be one of their launch titles for the PSVR.
Yeah, obviously, and that's super important because it is a big IP. For me, it's one of my favorite new IPs for PlayStation. Like I said it all the time, I really do like Aloy. I like the world, and to be able to experience that in VR would be great. It would be even better if I can get if this winds up being $500 and that's included, would be fantastic. But only time is going to tell. Yeah. Again, it is Sony, and that's the big problem. Dreadpool, let's get your opinion on this. Are you in on a $500 PSV version 2 with an Astrobot pack in as opposed to a Horizon?
He already bought it.
Yeah, I did.
Fraud.
No. Well, here's why. Right? It comes with a coupon. With when you open it up, the coupon. You'll be surprised, right? Inside it has the words. We advise you to,
no, it's IOU.
It says we advise you to get a second job.
Oh my God.
So now that I got that out of the way. All right. So
I used sticker on it.
Oh my God. That's funny.
Anyway, here's a thought though that I don't know if we all maybe overlooked it, but what's going on with Xbox and BC? Right, they had to ask for permission because everything was made for 360 or the OG, right? It was licensed for that. Now, and I know you guys don't want to hear it, especially you, Boom. What if it's licensed for PS4? They're going to have to go back and relicense all that for PS5. So, in all reality, the PS5, the PSVR 2 should be able to play the PSVR games. Regardless, right? In all reality, it's not the sense of I bought a car, but I got to spend extra money to get the gas to work. And oh, by the way, next month we're gonna release a new feature which is called the brake pedal. That's pointless. The controller is gonna be able to do it. Why do you have to use a PS4 on a PS5 console? It's BS. For a PS4 game. But it's the same mentality yet again. Why are they doing this halfway? Are they going to be doing this halfway again? Because it's what it feels like.
Yeah.
So with those things in mind, is it because they don't want to go through the hassle to bring it from PS4 royalties and contracts to go to 5? Did they not? I mean, that's why Xbox is just plain out Xbox. It doesn't matter if you have a Series X, Series S, an Xbox One now, or PC. It's all Xbox. even the service for Xbox Live is just Xbox. You know what I mean? So, yet again, they figured it out, but we have PS4 and we have PS5. Is this going to be an issue for them? Are they not going to want to do all this? I really want them to do this because, yet again, we know with the specs that it has, everything should be compatible, even with the controllers. There is, just because you have more, right? It's like you got a 4x4, you can go mudding, but it's not like you can't drive on the streets.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
And that's the main thing is you have the feature. Yeah, you have extra features there. Yeah, you won't be able to use them because these games don't have those extra features, but it shouldn't stop you from playing those games with a newer controller.
100%. Absolutely. I agree.
And that's the thing is we have other, everybody's already stated it. We have other VR headsets that'll work with previous games, because it was within the Quest line.
Yeah, at this point, I think it's a matter of money, and we know how they are about nickel and diming the people. Unfortunately, you are onto something, and the answer for myself is, I kept all these games, and they're probably worth nothing now. But and that's the problem. But
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to give you the bad news like that.
No, listen, but I expected it. I mean, that it is Sony. But let's get Crispy Bomb's final opinion on this particular topic. Yeah, Crispy is here. He's sitting.
He's
there.
alive.
I thought he was
alive. Oh, all
right. Oh, he's alive. Oh no,
I got you. All right.
Crispy.
I don't know. I thought I was alone this whole time.
Oh man.
Crispy, what? I mean, you've heard what everyone had to say. Are we expecting Sony to pull a Sony? And I mean, will the unit be worth the $500? I mean, the specs themselves suggest that it is, but only time is going to tell.
Hey, Boom. How much was that Quest 2?
There was $399 for the 256, but I could have got the 128 for $299.
Think about that. Now, my girlfriend's son absolutely obsessed with VR right now. He has the Quest 2. He got the lower version. He paid $300, and he's perfectly happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I have a problem with is why in God's name do they have all of those specs, but you still need to have a wire there? It's almost like
frustrating. Yes, I agree.
It's almost like, dude, like you could tone down the FPS or some of the specs and not have the wire. It's like you got like a beautiful BMW or something, but then it's got like one door that's red, and it's like, why is that red? The rest of the car is black. Like, what is this?
Yeah, they're trying their best to replicate everything from PS5.
It's one of those.
My car analogies are rubbing off on people now. I see.
Yeah. I used to have a car that was all green and had one red door. So that's actually a reference from when I was a kid. But it's one of those crazy things. Like, if you don't know, if you're not in or have somebody that loves VR as much, you think, oh, it's just one wire, no big deal. Well, I'll tell you right now,
it's a big
PS5,
deal.
The way it is, the way it's designed, okay, and my girlfriend's son, the 14-year-old, that thing is going to end up across the room, okay? I'm just telling you, the way he stomps around, upstairs, and it feels like the roof is going to come down, okay? and sometimes you'll hear him almost fall over or something, he just gets really into it. I'm like,
he's having fun.
Now here's my point though. The Oculus, okay, $300. I mean, he's already broke a controller once already. Like he's, what I mean? So it's one of those things. It's like, okay, I don't have a PS5, so there's $500. Got to find one as well. And then the VR headset, the way it sounds, it's going to be $500. So you're talking about me getting a new TV or getting PSVR? Yeah, no, I'm getting a new TV, bro. So that's one of those things, and I just feel like if the wire, it would be upper echelon if that wire wasn't there, and I think that could hinder people because if they've experienced the Quest already and been wireless, they might be really concerned about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, look, I when I walked away from it, I was under the impression that they were going to move away from actually having to have a wire. And when I learned that it had a wire, I'm still buying it. And but I am going to say that You're is
part of the problem, sir.
Yeah, no, 100% part of the problem. But there is certainly something to be said about the simplisticness of how easy it is to use the Oculus. I am in an apartment, right? Like I don't have. I mean, it's a nice sized apartment, but it's still an apartment. So I have to be very conscious of my space. So it allows you to spray paint with the controller. You make your own little play area, and when you come out of it, the infrared comes on so you can see through it, so you don't freaking kill yourself. But there's no wires, and that's a big deal. So for me,
the thing about it though, if it was to not have a wire and they want the specs that we clearly are seeing, it would have cost more, and that's
it might have cost more.
Yeah,
It could have been like $600 or $700.
Yeah, that's the scary part
right.
about it. They had to do a cheat sheet where the wire takes from the PS5, which is fine, but it's like you really could have toned down a lot of this stuff. You didn't have to go over the top of this. You could have made it where it's built into the headset, and you could have even had marketed this as a cheaper alternative. That's what made the PS4 VR so attractive at the time. It was the cheaper one. More likely, this is going to be the most expensive VR headset.
Can I throw another red herring in here?
Yeah, throw the red herring in.
All right. What if it was a standalone, right?
Yeah.
Not just get rid of the wire. You're not communicating to the PS5. It's a total standalone. Because right now, that the PS5 has Wi-Fi 6, right? So it's got the best Wi-Fi available as of current standards. They could also put that same Wi-Fi 6 in the headset. So either you connect to the network or you connect to the PS5 and the network. You know what I mean? So there's so many different ways that they could have done this. But yet again, this also poise on how much would it cost to make it wireless. So there's possibilities are always there, and yet again, it's just how much does it cost? And then you put in reference with was it the Steam version of the VR? What was that, like $1,000-$1,200 for that one that came with Project Alex?
Yeah, so that was it was $1,000 headset, absolutely, and it did come with Half-Life. Well, look, it's. I mean, I think you're onto something. I think the choice is always great. It's always great to be able to say, hey, because I would have gouged on the most expensive one not to have a wire. I would have paid the extra $150 so I don't have to be tethered to the PlayStation 5. I can simply just do my thing and not worry about having my head ripped off because I made a quick move to the left or right. Again, we're going to see. But what I want to do is I want to get to the big topic of the show. But before I do, I got to thank a couple of people for super chats that have come in. Percolator 9,000, good friend of the show, and Steeler fan, as a matter of fact, drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, "Good morning, Boom. Good morning, panel. Been up all night, ready for bed, but wanted to stop in, say hi. Good day, guys." Well, good day to you as well, brother, and hopefully you get some rest. Gone Mad drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, "Who remembers plugging in an S-video cable and being amazed at the clarity?" When I read this, I remember doing that and be like, my God, look how much better it is. The S-Video. He says Morrowind with Dolby Digital Surround and S-Video on the original Xbox. Yeah, go figure. Could you imagine that? It was just bonkers. But let's get into the main crux of today's episode, and that is whether or not Xbox aptly. Now, it's a simple question, right? But I think it's going to have huge opinions, and we're already seeing that in the chat, and I can't wait to hear what the panel has to say. But it's a huge investment, and seeming that a lot of the companies like PlayStation have seen a less than stellar return of investment, or ROI, as it's known for short. And I'll say this, as much as I love VR, and we've talked about it already, with me repurchasing or purchasing or upgrading from my Oculus 1 to the 2, I kind of think that I'd rather see Microsoft currently invest in studios with acquisitions and make even bigger splashes, to be honest with you, than actually take on VR with their own headset. And there are a couple of people that dropped some comments in here saying that, well, what they should do is just allow for use of, let's say, an Oculus or some of the other PC headsets that are available, and just make it compatible. That would completely move them out of the way of having to make their own. And I think that if history does repeat itself, We saw how gun shy they were after the failure of the camera, the 2.0 version. The first one sold; it was record selling. Right, Kinect sold like it was going out of style, and then when they tried to integrate and make it all about TV, it failed. Right, everyone didn't want that camera. Everyone didn't want Kinect. 2.0 failed, so it's safe to assume that they're a little gun shy now. I mean, who knows? But here is, before I get to the panel and the two super chat stuff came in, I gotta read you several quotes from Phil Spencer. If you were wondering whether or not they were going to budge on bringing VR to, of course, the most advanced hardware that's currently available on the market. And here's what Phil had to say specifically. He says, I think when you think about immersion, we think about mixed reality, virtual reality. I'll even take it into a metaverse, which seems to be the buzzword of the day now. We're big believers in that software platform and the devices that will enable that. Absolutely. But we're focused a lot more on the software side of that right now. And when I think about the immersion world and I think about the connection of a player and community, that's something that's very high on our investment list. I think the devices that are out there now, we are currently staying connected with a lot of the players that are out there. And with people building hardware, a lot of that happens on Windows, and we experiment and talk to a lot of partners that are out there and available. I think that the hardware innovation that's happening is great and it's important. But right now, I have decided to stay more on the software side than the enablement. I believe it will scale better in the long run. And this is what he has to say regarding Sony. And, I applaud what Sony's doing. I applaud what Oculus is doing and what Valve has done. I mean, there's a lot of good players out there that have done some amazing VR work, but we are, as a company, going to stay in the consumer space where we are focused on software. And I think that is the best bet. Let's start off with Fuzzy, our special guest. Fuzzy, right there, I think it clearly says that there is no chance Microsoft is going to A, invest in VR, and B, even potentially allow for other hardware to be compatible with the Xbox. And I think that I can't argue that. I think what they're doing it's, for me, I think it's the right move. I think when we constantly are talking and have been talking for a year that we are all expecting some monster announcements in regards to acquisitions, and acquisitions cost money. We know that they have a certain amount of billions set aside, thanks to Jeff Grubby Grubb of VentureBeat, for Xbox Game Pass investment. But we also know that they have a significant amount of billions set aside for acquisitions, which should in fact be happening this year. I'm actually not surprised that they don't want any part of VR, because if you consider what they've done already and what they will do this year and beyond, I don't think Xbox actually needs it. Now, I'll say I want it because I'm an Xbox and VR fan, but I don't think they need it. But what do you think, Fuzzy?
Well, I agree. I don't think they need it. Would it be cool as an option? Sure. But I think the biggest thing is we're now seeing what, I guess, those years of investment as far as into studios as well as into the dev teams themselves and making games is starting to pay off with this now flood of games that are going to be coming out from their first party studios. And with the CEO of Microsoft saying we're not done yet, or we're fully into gaming or vested into gaming, I think they're focusing on, I guess, the foundation. Like VR is something that would be a nice add-on on top. So once you have a range of games that you're consistently putting out, and you have the dev time to do, not necessarily a one-off, because I think the biggest thing that hasn't sold me fully on VR is that it's always kind of like a one-off experience. Yes, Half-Life Alyx was more of a built from the ground up type of game for VR.
But it's for that's a rarity.
Yeah, and that's, I think, when we get to the point where there's either the hardware or the tech is to the point where you could build a current model game that will easily work on both, non-VR and VR. I think that's when Microsoft should probably, jump in with both feet type of deal. But I think we're still maybe a few years away from that, maybe a little bit less time than that. I don't know. But I think for me, I'm waiting for the point where it's wireless, 60 frames or better at a minimum, something that's going to be beyond 1080 on my eyes as far as a screen, something at least OLED quality, which the PSVR 2 is above all of those standards. But I think we need to make it so, like, if you want the masses or the casuals to adopt it's got to be either a full-on standalone where it's like the equivalent of our current gen consoles, and it's priced in that same price point where you either just get the VR set or you get the box that sits and attaches to your TV type of thing for around the same price or less. But it's got to be wireless. It's got to be to the point where it has to feel like a second nature at this point. Like, smartphones weren't that way, let's say 10 years ago, and now can you live with a phone that's not a smartphone? Probably not. But I think,
couldn't.
I think VR, it's working its way towards that, and I think we're still a few years off from that. As far as Xbox getting into it, they have plenty of partners that already make hardware that, on the PC space, that, the famous terms, Xbox is PC, PC is Xbox type of thing. I think there is at least a backdoor workaround at some point that is easily, accessible, but I don't think they need to focus their billions on any of that stuff. I think continuing working with their existing studios, and any future studios or publishers that they may acquire type of thing. I think the other thing I want them to focus their money on would be, future hardware, as far as what's going to be the next iteration of the Series X or beyond the Series X and S type of thing. But the quiet storm that I think is coming is like, and I'm making this early prediction after talking with somebody about this before. I think the next VR candidate will be Nintendo. Yes, they did.
Yeah, so someone actually dropped it's funny you say that. It's funny you say that because Don Otaku actually adds on before I let you go. I want to let you hear what he had to say. He drops, first of all, a very extremely generous $10 super chat and says, "I feel like the next Switch will not only have more power, but also a VR dock that's bundled with it, similar to the phone." Similar to the phone VR sets. Nintendo's creativity plus VR would be top tier and make VR mainstream. What do you think about that, Fuzzy?
Oh, wow. Yeah, because I'm kind of thinking their next thing outside of Switch, like beyond Switch, is a standalone VR set. I think that's where things may head. And Nintendo, I mean, more so than PlayStation. Like, PlayStation definitely made some big gains as far as for the VR space, bringing it more so to the home as far as consoles, making it a little bit more accessible. I think Nintendo is that breakout that really kicks things off. At that point, I think that's when
maybe Microsoft takes a page out of Nintendo's book if they decide to do it and say, hey, now we got to jump in.
Yeah. But that's awesome when he made that prediction about with the Nintendo, because I just, there's a gut feeling that that's something that they will probably do next.
Well, they tried it with the cardboard stuff, so it's in their mind.
Yeah, but Xbox can wait. They could take a page from Apple. You don't have to be the first. Just do better than those that came before you, because a lot of times they're always the first one to go over the hill, catch all the arrows type of deal, with like Connect and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, I don't want that thing spying, but now it's in your phone and nobody says boo about it. But That's just my 2 cents.
Good stuff. Crispy, let's bring you into the conversation. But before we get your point on it, Andy Hart drops an outstanding and very generous £5 super chat and says this: I believe the cable is for the PlayStation. The cable there for the PlayStation VR 2.0 is for charging. I have the original Quest 2, and battery life is not brilliant. That's why I bought the extra battery. Yeah, I got the extended battery from Oculus. It was $100, but it's worth it if I can get extra 4 or 6 hours with that thing. And Gameonomics, who has been a member for a month, welcome back, brother. He says this: if someone figures out a mod for the PlayStation VR 2.0 to work on PC, I will get it immediately. And if history is proof, a modder will make that mod in 72 hours tops. And I agree with you.
Follow history, they won't need one.
Yeah, that's very true. But Crispy, where do you fall into Microsoft's opinion, or should I say Phil Spencer's comments regarding not getting in on VR and being focused on software? And I think it's a smart bet. I think it's the right call. But what do you think?
Yeah, we need some more games before we start, getting into the VR space, in my opinion. I think Xbox also looks at, because they have a partnership with Facebook. So there's something there. We don't know what it is yet. Now, at the end of the day, the software is what's going to sell the headset, in my opinion. I think we could all say that because
100%. Yeah.
You're going to go there for that specific exclusive or something like that. I think personally, Xbox is like, can we really do it better than what Oculus or some of these other headsets are doing right now? Not really. Not, they would have to, drastically up the price to really have significant, gains in, how you experience. And you look at their AR headsets and stuff. I mean, people are using them, but
the military is specifically using them.
Yeah. There's huge companies, the military. This is extremely expensive stuff. Now, maybe one day we see that kind of integrated with VR. And then maybe Microsoft, gets it to a $500 price point and is like, okay, now we have something that nobody else has. You know what I mean? So right now, if they, start from the ground up and they build the foundation and they start, imagine if at some point you get a Halo VR port over to Oculus or something like that. And that's kind of like how they experiment without investing in it. You know what I mean? So it sounds like they got something going on in the works, and maybe down the road, for an Oculus or, maybe for just any PC VR headset, you're going to get some kind of exclusive game or a partnership to have, a Halo, or with all these FPS games they have now, even with Bethesda has done VR work. So they know what they're doing as well. There could be something there. It's just, I believe it's the right thing to do, to just start with the foundation. You need to have the software, and then, you decide what you want to do as far as the hardware.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely onto something with that. There's no doubt. But I mean, look, I'll say this. It would be pretty crazy if we got a chance to play anything Halo in VR, right? Like, that would be incredible. And it could come, in the form of a smaller experience, maybe an ODST 2 if they ever decide to get into VR. But I do agree that I agree with the wait and see approach. And the one thing we know about Microsoft is that they watch the numbers. And they understand that only 5 million. I'm not being facetious by any stretch of the truth. 5 million, if anything, is a great number. But when you look at PlayStation VR, let's say that it's 5.5 for shits and giggles, that they moved another 500,000. 5.5 million. They have 115 plus million consoles out in the wild. What is that percentage? If you want to just get very cheap with the math, let's say they only sold I don't know, what is it, 5%? If you 5.5%, 5.6% of the populace bought it, and I'm good for 2. I know several people in my video game circle upgraded just like I did. So they sold it to us several times. So when you look at the numbers, the math doesn't add up. And I think you're onto something. Microsoft needs to focus on getting us quality games, which they're doing with their studios and their future acquisitions. I mean, if you asked me, like right now, flat out, I'm going to bring this question over to Dreadpool. If you asked me flat out, what would I rather see? Would I rather see them add 6 new studios like IO Interactive, Crystal Dynamics, Avalanche, whatever's your flavor? Would you rather them invest in these studios, bringing them into Xbox Game Studios as first party, so they could potentially work on the hashtag just one that we've all been asking for, or do we get VR? I'm going to take the 6 additional studios and wait for them to deliver the hashtag just one, because I think that the software for Xbox is incredibly important on a multitude of conversations. One, as fans, we have been asking for them, right? We want these Sony type titles that have lifelike graphics and single player capabilities and tell these incredible stories. But I think when you have when you bring Xbox Game Pass into the conversation, well, what do they need for Xbox Game Pass to continue to show success? And they need software. They need constant software. So I kind of agree with Phil on this one. But Dreadpool, what is your opinion on this? Is Phil making the right call?
Yes, absolutely. And for anybody that said that they bought an Xbox One for VR, I say you're full of bullshiznit. I guess that's the easiest way, because I know there are still some people, it's still early morning for them in Cali. But no, I mean, the goal was to make it powerful enough to do it, right? And then the realization is the product wasn't going to be good. So they pulled back on it and redacted that. They did not want to do, they wanted to build Xbox back up, right? So what are you going to do? You're going to do that and then release a product that's going to fail? I mean, the best product that they had when it came to that was Kinect. You know, and they're using Kinect 3.0 right now in airports. They're using it in the HoloLens, which military are using it.
Yep.
We've already established that other construction facilities are using it. Bring that back, right? Did we also forget back in, what was it? There was a VR mode was found on the Switch and the 3DS back in 2018, right? Nintendo 3DS also played games in AR. Did we forget that there was games that you could play? You had, you would use the camera and you would aim your 3DS in the real world, and they would have stuff like we saw with HoloLens.
Yes.
So
they came with the cards you can scan, and you did it right. You did that. I remember doing that, and it was pretty dope, to be honest with you.
And people forget about that, right? So the next Nintendo Switch Pro, whatever, VR, AR, whatever, is possible. It's very, very possible. I mean, they've already done this back in 2018. They've done it before that. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's there, right? Now, when it comes to studios versus VR, go for the studios, right? We want more games. More studios that are more expertise on the console are going to be able to shift over those that want to, right? They can shift over and do VR or AR, whichever, or both, when it's right, you know? So Microsoft already has approval of certain companies, HP, Acer. They have their headsets, their VR headsets that Microsoft endorses to work with Microsoft products or with the software, right? And with every car that runs down the road, anybody that does racing in any sport knows that, yeah, you know, everything's mechanical, but now everything's gone software, right? Now we're using software to fine-tune the engines. For a while there was a lot of diehards that refused to use software on their engines to control it. They wanted to control it, everything mechanically. Well, we already know software works hand in hand with hardware. This is where it's going to be at, you know. So if the hardware is not there yet, why spend the money? Why waste the time? Let the tech develop. I mean, AMD just released a whole bunch of newer, smaller chips, right? The M5 and all that stuff that they just released on, or not released, but announced on at CES, right? They've got NVIDIA's doing their thing too. Not as good in their presentation, but still, these chips, who are they using? NVIDIA. I'm sorry, AMD. So if they're going for those AMD chips that are smaller, faster, powerful, can do more compute units, they can do all this stuff, right? Let it get out. Maybe the technology's not there. Why did we held off for RDNA 2, right?
Great point.
There was a time, right? It was like either we do partial or we go full on. And they said we go full on. So that's what they did. So here, same thing. Do we go partial and screw it up? Do we want to keep tripping over ourselves with a Kinect that we're going to force on you? If they didn't force it on you, because it was the best-selling accessory, right? The first one.
Yeah, it was.
The best-selling accessory.
Dude, it broke records beyond records being broken. It was ridiculous. Yeah.
And then nobody wanted it because why? It's forced on you.
Yes.
So if they do something like this, right now, what's being forced on you? The cable, right? Nobody wants the cable, but it's being forced on you. You're just going to have to live with it if you want to use it. Unfortunately, there is no other way for this to work. So, but for Xbox, if that's what they're looking for wireless to be there, then it is what it is. I mean, they even did, what did they do? They did something twice. It was the cloud, the X Cloud. They actually had a fully functional X Cloud up and running that they were using internally to play games, and they scrapped it and they started over. And they said it was good. Back then, it was good, but apparently not good enough. So I'm sure they're still looking at it and trying to figure out what they can do. They got HoloLens, so they have a good test bed. They got Kinect. They have something else that they can utilize hand in hand, and then try to figure out how to make it cheaper, better, faster, and actually come out the gate. Here you go. Here's our version. And it might not be in the next 2 years, 3 years. It could be 5 years or more. It could,
Well, one of the things that Phil was very, very bullish, and I don't have the interview in front of me, but he does not like the wires.
Correct.
He said he does not. He said the technology is great, but it's not where it needs to be in regards to be an Xbox device. And obviously, we're seeing that the Oculus Quest 2 and potentially the 3, it's its own device. Everything is in that one little device, whereas PlayStation, the way that they're doing it is apparently it is. I mean, the specs are freaking awesome, and I am very excited for it. But it is also going to use the power of the PlayStation 5, and that's no slouch either. Let's call a spade a spade. The power of the PS5 is good, really good, as a matter of fact. So they're probably going to work in tandem with one another. And that makes perfect sense, obviously, because one hand is going to work with the other one. Before I bring Brick Cloud in, anything else you'd like to add to the conversation, Edge Redpool?
No. I mean, that's really it. Concentrate on the games. Concentrate on bringing up the quality before we concentrate on adding something new that's going to divert the attention.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic point. And what I want to do is I want to bring in Big Cloud. Look, Sony is in a position that their studios, we know now. I'm probably going to get some pushback. Some people are going to disagree with me because some people don't like their games. They're too much. They're too similar. I love their games. That's why I own a PlayStation 5. Right? They're in a position where their studios are still hitting on all cylinders. They're quality games. They're also in a position to potentially take a chance on a PlayStation VR 2.0 because of what they have done in the past. Mm-hmm. Now, you may disagree, you may agree. I think that because they have a history of delivering AAA bangers and bombs like they have, they can go out and they can expand on a studio like the team from Horizon and say, hey, listen, we want Horizon Forbidden West for our PlayStation 5, but we're also gonna expand the team because we feel that we can dabble in the VR space. And one of the biggest complaints from me, from many people with PlayStation VR, is that Sony did not knuckle down or dig their heels in the sand when it came to a first-party AAA development. That did not happen. We saw a couple, but we didn't see enough. And it appears that they have heard the complaints, and we are getting a game built from the ground up, specifically in the Horizon universe, that will take advantage of this new device. Where do you fall on Phil Spencer saying, you know what, we're gonna take a software stance. We want to get our studios in order. We're gonna go all in on software first. Do you agree with this move?
So, Phil's whole mindset is obviously, he wants to build the platform with the value, right? The platform has all the options. You guys already established an option is not the problem. You know what I mean? We all love an option for VR for Xbox. In fact, the more Microsoft sits back and lets Sony just gets more and more established with VR, it's kind of not that beneficial towards them. Now, as far as them signing up or working with other partners to get VR support, this is something we've been hearing since the 1X, if I remember. Remember that? When that 1X first came out, it was like, hey, 1X compatible with Oculus or the Vive, something like that. And it never happened. So it's like, if you're going to do it personally, I would say, you know what I mean? Like, let's make that happen. It definitely needs to happen at this point in time. But personally, in terms of them needing a VR headset, it's really up in the air at this point. It really is. As much as I would want them to have one, it's like, if they do come out with a VR headset, what do they have? You know what I mean? Like, they're not really set up for it. And so it's real questionable. It really is questionable. We were just talking about the PSVR, it having a wire, and everybody's not a fan of the wires. And it's like, I understand completely, and I agree with you. But it's like, at the same time, even when you look at the specs, it's like, Sony, did you really have to go over the top with all these specs and potentially make the most expensive VR headset that's on the market?
Series X of VR.
it kind of is. That's the wild part. They really outdid all the other competitors in every category, whether it be in eye tracking, whether it be in resolution, display. It has all that stuff. And I don't think this is going to be a $400 peripheral. This is probably going to be up there with the $500 console. I really do see that being the case, but there's going to be more to it at this point.
And I agree. I absolutely agree with you there, and I definitely think that you're onto something. The hardware. The one thing that we have learned about Sony is that they're very quick to put out the information, but they're very quick to hold back on very specific details. Is it releasing in 2022? We don't know, right?
No, we don't know.
I like to hope so. Maybe we get this for Christmas. That would be freaking awesome, but it's unlikely. Are we getting backwards compatibility? Well, it's been, again, not to be like a jerk about it, but it's Sony. So all of my software that I literally have sitting beside me is probably either going to cost me money to upgrade or not work at all. And that's going to kind of suck, because PlayStation 5 and PSVR 1, not the greatest of workarounds. A lot of wires, and it's a pain in the ass to get it started. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use my Oculus and play something like Vader Immortal or Beat Saber there, and I'm good with it. But I want to get into now. I mean, we have 30 minutes left of the show, and I could have easily just ended the show, but I do, because we have a BitCloud here. I gotta bring up one of the. It's one of those ugly stories that you don't like to read, but you're always interested to know. And what am I talking about, folks? I'm talking about the news that broke. And I pulled this story from our good friends over at the Video Games Chronicle, short for VGC. This is posted by one of their contributors, Andy Robertson. It appears that the Days Gone director claims Sony made it feel like it was a disappointment despite outselling Ghost of Tsushima. Now, this is pretty interesting. This comes to us from VGC. Jeff Ross, who left Ben Studios in 2020 after some 20 years at the company, made the claim on Twitter following Wednesday's announcement that Sony put out there. This comes out that Ghost of Tsushima has moved past 8 million copies. And that first of all, I say this: if you missed out on a Ghost of Tsushima, please continue helping them build this, because it was an absolutely
experience.
Oh my god! I platinum that game.
Same here.
I don't platinum a lot of games, but I platinum that game, and it just was a great experience. Now, Days Gone, right, is a game that I really thoroughly enjoyed, and when that horde is chasing you, if you're on foot, it's over. But even when you're on a bike, you're shitting your pants. Pardon my French.
Adrenaline.
It is terrifying when hundreds of these things are chasing you. And the only complaint that I had with Days Gone, and I love open world games. Everyone that follows me knows that, right? I really enjoyed Days Gone, but it was a little too open for its own good. Again, in my opinion, I did not beat it. I got about halfway through it. Another small complaint from it was I had the same AK-47 that I had when I started the game, and 50 hours later, I had the same freaking gun. Like, it was so hard to find stuff. And I guess in an apocalypse, that is, it's probably would happen in real life, but it's still a game. But I just want to read what Jeff Ross had to say. And now understand, he's no longer with Bend Studios. He left the studio in 2020. And this is what he had to say. He says, at the time I left Sony, Days Gone had been out for a year and a half and sold over 8 million copies. And he wrote this directly on his official Twitter account. He says this, in response to the Ghost of Tsushima news, it's nice. It's since gone on to sell. And he's talking about Days Gone. It since has gone on to sell more, and then 1 million plus sales on Steam. Local studio management always made us feel like the game was a big disappointment. Now, we have seen this kind of shenanigans, and that's what I call it. I call it shenanigans, folks, because every time Crystal Dynamics has done something, right, we always get from Square Enix, oh, the software didn't sell to our expectations. I don't think I've ever seen Square Enix actually say said game has met their expectations, even their own stuff. It's always, 8 million copies, 11 million copies, 12 million copies, not our expectations. Holy shit, what do you guys, I don't understand what you're looking for. But I got to bring BitCloud Gaming into the conversations. This isn't one of those stories that when we look back on 2022, you can say, this was a holy shit experience, because he's no longer with them. And I don't think he's going to hurt his career at all, because he didn't really say anything derogatory. He's just said that the company's inner management,
a failure.
That made them feel like their work was a disappointment. And I think that this is not sour grapes, because obviously they pitched Days Gone 2, which we know Sony has said no to, which is a shame, because I think what we could have got here, BitCloud, and please correct me if I'm wrong, when Uncharted first came out, Uncharted 1 was a good experience. It wasn't a great experience.
It was amazingly responded. Right, it was the okay response. Yeah.
Right, but Uncharted 2, well, now we're talking my favorite top 3 game of the PlayStation 3 era, right along with Resistance. And I loved it. I beat it twice on the PlayStation 3. Absolutely loved that game.
Yep.
But the step up was so incredible because of the foundation that was built by Naughty Dog. For one, they expanded on 2, and I think Bend Studios could in fact have done this because they laid the groundwork. Was it perfect? No. Dude, but was it good? Yes.
We can say that about another studio, Ready at Dawn.
Yeah. My God.
We could have said
that about 1886, dude.
Favorite. There are tons of studios that can learn from mistakes like that. Like, again, you just brought up Uncharted. It's a good comparison, because Uncharted 1 was not really crazy well received, right? It was okay. It won Best PlayStation Game at the E3 showcase, I remember, and that was pretty much it. It didn't really, not much else you really heard about the game. What did they do? They took the feedback from that. Everybody talked about the aiming and whatnot. You gave us Uncharted 2, which is arguably one of the best PlayStation games of all time.
Dude, it's in my top
is.
three. My top three. Yeah.
That mindset could have been applied to Ready at Dawn, and you could have got the Order 1886 too. But we're on Days Gone. Looking at Days Gone and just the reception that game got, there's a lot of stuff that apparently plays a factor into sequels and what they deem as a failure. I spoke to Chris Grinnell about this, and Chris Grinnell broke this down really, really well. He said,
just explain who Chris Grinnell is. I know him personally. He's been on, I've been on him on several shows, but he's an ex-Sony developer.
Yeah, he's an ex-Sony PlayStation developer, and he saw how a lot of games work in terms of the process of being well received and how the company dubs them a success. Even if a game didn't sell, let's say 10 million, if it had a high user Metacritic score, they dubbed that as a success. Why? Because you made a game that was well liked and received. The problem between Days Gone compared to something like a Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Tsushima was well received, very, very well received. It had a lot of good
game of the year
reactions. And also on top of that, the launch of Days Gone, the launch of Ghost was smooth. It didn't have issues even.
Right. It literally worked out of the gate. Correct.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah.
So when you look at this and how this game was reacted to and how people dub it, where it is, it's like, damn, it's hard for me to go, damn, this was going to be, a well-received or a success. Now it got some more eyes on it with it going to PC, but mind you, it works on PC. They didn't have the same hiccups as we did when we got it on console. When I had, the game was running like a slideshow when you're on the bike, and also the game crashed.
There were some issues. Yeah,
there was a lot of issues.
I think the size of the game, because I think you agree with me that it was too open world for its own good.
Yeah, they really, and I applaud them again for taking a risk with the game, like with the amount of enemies on screen with the hordes, coming at you. That's cool. That's a risk. But a game like that right there is something that you would probably want to save for a beefier system. Like that would have been amazing.
Like the PS5.
PS5
handle that with no problem.
I think they would have definitely benefited more if that was pushed to PS5 only and that was all next gen for us. I think that would have been the game to showcase it. But it's crazy. You look back at the game because, again, it's a good game. If you play Days Gone, it has a lot going for it. It's a lot of, it has a good character. It has a lot of cool, plots to it, and layers to it. The problem is, again, it didn't perform.
Yeah.
And that hurts. When you look back at that, it really, really does hurt. It's like, well, Jesus, this is why a lot of studios, I feel like, and I'm going to talk to Kate about this, but this is why I feel like a lot of studios don't take risk anymore in terms of really making those wow moments. And why do I say that? God of War 2018, right? They took a risk with the character in terms of story direction, right? Making them sympathetic.
And their risk paid off.
Yeah,
in
that paid off.
Sure.
But here's the thing. That came at a price, Boom. And a lot of people don't notice this. It came at a price. God of War 2018 is not as gory or over the top as God of War 3. Now, is it?
No, not even
close. Not even close. And that's where it's like, I felt like, as much as I love God of War 2018, and I do think Ragnarok's going to deliver, it's like I like what they're doing with the story, but I would love also the same stuff that you built upon with God of War 3. You know what I mean? Like what you left us off of with God of War 3, where the blood, the guts, and all this stuff. I mean, I would love to see that again. But again, I already know we're not going to get that. Just like I know we're not going to get, it feels like gore is really lacking in games now too, but a lot of stuff's toned down.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're telling an amazing story, I don't necessarily think you need the gore. I mean, I think some games call for it. I mean, a Resident Evil game needs gore. It's a Resident Evil game, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that kind of gore, that over-the-top gore that we're talking about, would not have fit well or been needed for something like Ghost of Tsushima. You
even though decapitate people. Yeah, there's light gore in that.
Yeah, because you're running around with a katana, you're gonna cut someone's freaking head off or arm off. You're gonna see some blood.
But is that though? That also, that applies to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Remember, they toned that down as well too. That's what I'm talking about. Like a lot of stuff is toned down.
Star Wars, that's part of the Star Wars thing. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed.
Yeah, they don't want like arterial sprays of blood.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I hate seeing it. It's like, do I have this lightsaber? It's known to cut through anything, and I can't cut through. And then it's like,
real quick, I want to get your opinion on something. Rahitri Gaming actually dropped something in this here, a statement which I did not know. So Rahitri Gaming, thank you for this. This is pretty interesting. He says it turns out Ross used trophy data to say that 8 million copies were sold. And I did not know this. He says, he continues with, this means every used copy and every PlayStation Plus copy were counted, even though it was free for PlayStation Plus, which is how he got it. So again, now if that in fact is true, and I'm not saying that he's not giving us facts because I didn't know that. So shout out to Rahitri Gaming for that. That's pretty dope that you dropped that in there. Did it really sell 8 million copies? See, now I don't know.
About
right?
So
now, did it sell 4 million copies, 5 million copies? Because maybe 3 million people waited for it and didn't buy it and got it through PlayStation Plus or used for that matter. And that money,
got
of course, got it from a friend. This is how you share games, right? So maybe that in fact is the case, and that's why. But again, it's
unfortunate. I mean, either way we dice this, it's unfortunate because the game had potential.
It has tremendous potential. Play if you're doubting what BitCloud and I are saying,
you got to play it.
Please, by all means, if you have a PlayStation 4, you have a PlayStation 5, and you are a fan of open world and zombie games, it runs magnificent now. It's been patched. Again, I still think that the game is a little too open for its own good, but I'm telling you, if you like zombies, if you like open world, if you like those over-the-shoulder, story-driven, adult-themed Sony-type games, this one is one you should definitely check out. And you'll see what we're talking about, because I think that BitCloud is 100% correct here. There is a significant amount of world building that was done. The groundwork was done for a sequel, and it's unfortunate, folks.
But
that we're not going to get it.
There's light at the end of the tunnel if you really think about it. If Alan Wake gets a sequel,
that's true.
There's possibility
you coming back after a decade.
So exactly, you could see Days Gone get a sequel after the PC release, and even though the order is not on PC per se.
Good, man. And that cliffhanger ending. Oh my god.
That cliffhanger still to this day, even when I played it again on the stream, I was like, dude, this stuff still gets me excited just for
I'll say this.
Been, you know what I mean?
I want to throw this out there to the chat. We got over 300 people here. If you trust Boom, go buy the order 1888 for $5, because that's what it costs online. You can literally buy it for $5. Okay, it didn't have the greatest gameplay elements. That's one of the areas that they needed to advance, and I think they would have, because the encounters with the werewolves or the Lycan could have been better. But my God, I am telling you right now, the story, the graphics, the way the story is told, some of the gameplay elements, top notch.
Not
gaming.
Just that though, it's just the cinematography, how they did the
shots,
good, the way like the whole cloth flowed with the wind. It's like, bro, they really outdid themselves.
And this was a small studio, PS, by the way.
It was.
So
and they outdid themselves. And that studio, the director, he wanted a redemption.
Oh, sure he did.
He wanted redemption. He wanted to make a sequel to that game and really shine. I think he would have killed it, because
dude,
he had the perfect world for it. You know what I mean? Like, you got werewolves, you got potentially zombies in this damn thing with with things how they went about it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Even with the Jack the Ripper reveal in the game.
And you got
that
a chance
threw me through a loop. I was like, okay, wasn't expecting that.
And you also got a chance to work with Tesla.
Nikola Tesla, yeah.
We got a chance to work with him. That was pretty freaking dope. But listen, let me bring Dreadpool into the conversation. Dreadpool, you heard what me and BitCloud had to say. Obviously, Days Gone 2 is not happening for now. And like BitCloud said, we are getting an Alan Wake remake. I mean, a new Alan Wake. So it maybe even things can happen. Where do you fall on this? What are your thoughts on the director coming out and saying, "Hey, man, you're getting excited about 8 million copies sold on this game, but you made us feel like crap with ours"? What are your thoughts?
I think it's what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You should not sit there and compare what each game sells when it comes to their quality or lack of or any of that stuff, right? That's up to the studios if they make their money back, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of the thing that we keep forgetting. You got to make your money. How much did it cost to put in there?
Return of investment, biggest
Right.
conversation piece of any company. They want to know if we invest this right
And
here,
then
what are we going to get
also-
over here?
Yeah, exactly. And we also forget, what have I said before? Excel could be manipulated. I know math is math, but when you leave out a section of that pie chart or the, you know what I mean?
Oh, I
It changes
accidentally
the
on purpose
figures.
forgot to add this. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I've seen people do this even in my companies that I've been in. You know, I've seen people get paid for jobs that they've sold. The job gets canceled, but they still got the money. They don't have to return the money. Everybody else is at a loss, but
Except for them.
yeah, the salesperson made the money. You know, and it makes no sense because then where did that money come from? It came from somewhere. It didn't just pop out of thin air. And that's what they do. They manipulate these Excel files that now, okay, well, this guy's productive. You look at his numbers. They left out that so many cancellations happened and he really didn't hit those numbers, but he still got paid for those jobs. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's the same scenario here. You know, you're made to feel bad. You're made to feel bad because of these numbers, but then you look at some of the things that were left out, it changes the narrative. And unfortunately, you know, you shouldn't be, you know, I watch, like, who's that guy? Shark Tank. I watch some of his seminars. It's the bald guy, Mr. Perfect or whatever his name is, Mr. Wonderful, right? So, you know, when you put a high expectancy on return when it comes to certain things, it puts so much pressure, so much turnaround. But when you lower that, right, people stay there longer because they want to be there and they're more invested into being there. You know, so when you put a high investment into this game and you're like, look, you didn't meet the goals, but they did good, right? And it just gives you a bad feeling. It does not help you for the next one. You know, you're always going to be pressured to do better, and that pressure is going to be unattainable. You know,
Yeah.
but you bring that the goal down where it's attainable, and whether or not you make money, it's not a big deal as long as you return on the investment and there's a possibility for more profit, you'll get that profit. You know, and that's the problem is, yet again, when you change that pie chart, you make people feel bad. They're not going to want to stick around. They're not going to want to push again for that. You know, there are certain people that will push, but not everybody's going to be behind it anymore. You know what I mean? So it's like, why bother? We didn't do good on this. You know, we put our heart and soul on this and we got screwed. You know, people just didn't buy it. Well, no, they did. They played it. You know, and you can see if you add these things in that we did pretty good. People played it, whether or not you owned the game, you rented it, you borrowed it from a friend, you played it, did you not? That's the main thing is now you have a potential of a next buyer for that same game or the a sequel.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually think you're onto something with that because you're right. 8 million plus people did play it at one point or another. So if you're going on, that's a pretty high metric for any game. Because some games come out and they get 100,000 people play it, and it goes into the way of the dodo, right? But if you can say, and he did, and if the gentleman that dropped that thought nugget into the conversation, still maybe they didn't make 8 million sales, but 8 million people did in fact play, and with that 8 million people playing, could potentially be exactly what you said, Dreadpool, open up the door for a sale if a sequel was greenlit.
Yeah. I mean,
did they not just release? Last Guardian didn't make the impact that we were expecting.
Remember, with all the BC that Microsoft just released, everybody's buying all those old games again.
Right?
Yeah.
So same thing here. You know, what we're getting Calypso Protocol. What happened? Oh, look, we got another Dead Space coming out now.
Yeah.
Because of the interest of Calypso Protocol. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have another Dead Space. And that's, yet again, doing that, I want another Fear to come out. I want a newer Fear to come out. So I'm all
Not One
for
House of the
those
Dead,
two
yeah.
games to be good and show that there is interest in these type of horror games, or somewhat horror, right?
Speaking of that, I'm glad you mentioned that. There's a game that we've been talking about for a while. Boom, we still waiting for Dino Crisis. We need that. We need that. We need that to be made, for God's sakes. Like, there's a lot of games that can benefit from a remake. I mean, if y'all look at how amazing. I'm glad you brought up Dead Space. Look how amazing Dead Space looks. This remake.
It looks quite
he looks
incredible.
like a damn tank in that armor. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking that armor was halfway modded up, so he's gonna look pretty dope in the armor set. They're gonna have extra detail in this, but the way the ship looks, it's like it's night and day from what we were given. And you count the new dismemberment mechanics where you can shoot off piece of flesh.
Yeah,
that's night and day. It's like, dude, a lot of games can benefit from that.
Yeah, a lot of things is so simple for us to see, but sometimes corporate I don't know, pride with some of these people get involved and screw everything up.
Yeah.
You know, they want to be able to say, hey, look, I want this studio to make this with this game. These are the numbers that this game should hit, and you're not hitting them. You know, you just made me look bad.
I agree.
You didn't do good. And yet again, that's bad for the employee and the company overall, right? Then we have, if you don't want to go online, isn't there a console for you, the 360? Is that not, you know what I mean? Those type of corporate pride thought patterns do not work. They're very negative when it comes across.
Yeah. No, you know what? It's a shame that that we have to hear about this from the director who's no longer with them, and it's a shame that we're not going to get it. But we are closing in on the 2-hour mark. I want to grab Fuzzy's opinion, and then we'll get Crispy Bomb and get to everyone at the H out of here so you can enjoy the rest of your Friday. Fuzzy, what are your thoughts on the director coming forth and basically saying, hey, we had 8 million people play our game, and that doesn't seem to be enough for Sony? What gives when they're getting excited about 8 million sales on my game of the year, Ghost of Tsushima?
I actually I like both of them, but I really love Ghost of Tsushima. But it's kind of like what you guys had touched on earlier with the Uncharted series. The first one, good game. No record breaker or anything along those lines, but it was a good foundation. And I felt that Days Gone was kind of that thing. It filled the niche that I wanted. It was a good zombie game. Yeah, it was a little broken on release. They eventually fixed it. But at that time, there was a lot of broken games, and we still get a lot of broken games even to this day. Yes, It wasn't up to the normal Sony standard of quality, let's just say, but it wasn't too far behind. Like, if you were a Horizon player on PC, you kind of went through similar issues as well. But it for what the game was trying to do on that type of hardware, with that amount of enemy or AI on screen, it was groundbreaking, let's just say. And the fact that we're not going to get a second one is disappointing. But to kind of lay it out where it's like, oh, well, your game didn't perform because Metacritic this and sales numbers that, yet it has enough interest to build on it. It's something that could be another, pillar franchise in the Sony pantheon of games.
Yeah.
It just seems like, I don't know. Ghost of Tsushima, I totally understand why we'll get a Ghost of Tsushima 2 and probably a 3 and 4 and so forth. Days Gone, I think it's one of those that they probably should have taken what they've learned from that launch and put it towards, especially on the newer hardware for it too. And I hope, even though we've heard, some, quotes from Jim as far as how they view their titles and how they're going to double down on those premium experiences, it would have been nice to get a more premium version of a Days Gone, a more fleshed out Days Gone, where running on better hardware, you wouldn't have the falling through the ground problems or some of the slideshow aspect type of deals.
Yeah, there were some issues for sure.
But it's a shame, but
it runs like a dream on PC with the added features as well.
Yeah,
it looks amazing.
And see, that's the thing. It's like, now that we're in this newer hardware age, I totally see what their vision could be like for another one on this current hardware that we're working with both on PC and these next gen consoles. So it's a shame. Hopefully Ben Studios, the remaining dev team that's there, knock it out of the park with this next one, because I don't know. Hopefully they don't go the way of Evolution Studios or any of the other ones that Sony has closed in the recent past. But it just sometimes the return on investment or the bottom line metrics aren't the full story. And like you said, if you're having an engagement of 8 million people playing, whether it's secondhand or otherwise, that is still a potential sale, or at least a vested ecosystem friendly, client that you can, put to use or manipulate, possibly with DLC or other ways of monetizing that. So there's other ways to monetize things, but it seems like kind of like a missed opportunity. But the way things go, if there's enough buzz about this 3-4 years down the road, we may very well get a Days Gone 2. A little late, but still, good.
I'll
to
take
have.
it. Listen, I'll take that, or I'll take an order.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Real quick, Abacab72 drops an outstanding and very generous $5 super chat and says, if you have the time or haven't talked about it before, what do you think about Square Enix not putting any Final Fantasy games on the Xbox this gen rumor? As a matter of fact, it is the lead story for Monday's primetime gaming. I am literally writing that script as we speak. And yes, that is the newest rumor coming out from quotes from directly employees of Square Enix. It is, look, the writing's on the wall, folks. All you got to do is say, how come Final Fantasy VII Remake isn't on an Xbox? And I don't necessarily know if that is a one company thing or a 2 or 3 company thing. When you talk about, is Sony involved in that? Have they literally paid Square Enix not to put Final Fantasy VII on a remake on the Xbox? It was supposed to come last year during spring. They had a 1-year exclusive. Forsaken is launching this year, or hopefully launching this year as a PlayStation 5 exclusive. And that is another one where we know for an absolute fact that it is, in fact, 2 years, 2-year exclusive. And it may just be an exclusive permanently. We don't know. We can only speculate. But yeah, Abacab, thank you so much for that. We are going to dive deep into that on Monday's Primetime Gaming as I continue to put that script together. But let's get Crispy Bomb's final opinion, and then we will get everyone out of here. Crispy, what are your thoughts on the director going out and finding the stats that, 8 million people played our game, but Sony always made us feel like it wasn't enough? Do you agree with him coming out and coming forward?
I think somebody needs to, because at the end of the day, that game deserves a sequel. I know a lot of people, that's like their favorite PlayStation 4 exclusive, to be honest. It would be that, and then I hear Ghost of Tsushima. And it's like, dude, like when I first saw that game, I forgive me, it was a while ago. Like the original, I call it gameplay trailer. I was like, yo, this is like 28 days later as a game, bro. You know what I mean? I was like, this is cool. And I kind of like that game had me teetering on, before I had a PS4 in the house, to go and buy one, because I'm a huge zombie fan. I was like knees deep in the Walking Dead and loved Left 4 Dead, and I was like, man, this is as close as I'm gonna get right now. And then the launch happened, because I'm the type of person, I'll wait, especially if I'm gonna go purchase a whole console, you know what I'm saying, just for one game. And I was like, man, this is not. And I'm like now, with the power we have with these consoles, I'm like, dude, they would make just an incredible experience. Add some of the things that, a lot of people critique on, hey, I can't find weapons, this and that, like simple things that they could correct and just launch correctly. And I think they could just make something really special. And it's kind of a shame that, at least for now, it's on the back burner. And it's like, dude, like, this power's here, the games, like even like the Matrix experience, if people like see the amount of AI on there and be like, Days Gone wouldn't benefit from that. You know what I'm saying? So to make a sequel would just be totally logical. And, I feel like regardless, like Sony needs to realize that they're their bread and butter has been nurturing games, and they need to really go back to that. Yeah. Because they've really kind of stepped away from it. While Xbox, they have a different model. They say, well, it's going to go on Game Pass. So as long as it gives engagement, that's all we care about. You know what I mean? Like people are like, oh, you're not going to see certain games. I'm like, I wouldn't say that, because if they got a few million subs from one game, that's a win for them. And granted, you could go into the argument, somebody like subbed for a month and that's it. But, if they're going to sub for a month and then all of a sudden another game comes out, they sub for a month again. They sub for a month again. Then finally you're just like, screw it. I'll just keep it. You know what I mean? Or you just forget about it. You're like, I have it. And that's what you got to look at. But Sony doesn't have that model yet. So it's like, Days Gone. It's, it didn't do well. Metacritic sucked, whatever. It's like the game only had a bad Metacritic, like that bad, is because it launched broken. Like, and I think it has a lot to do with the hardware you put it on. So why not, do a sequel and really, use the power that you have in the PS5 and make something special? Because clearly, like BitCloud said, the PC, it works pretty damn good. You know what I mean? So they were just a little too far ahead in making a game that really needed a little extra horsepower. That's the way I look at it.
Well, listen, folks.
We got volumes too, Crispy. Remember the dude just say we buy these games, we support the developers.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
I saved that for the end.
We know for a fact that a lot
of people scratching my itch, bro.
Support the developers. Don't buy it on Game Pass. Support the developers.
Support the devs.
Well, developers. Yeah. Well, the developer just spoke. You didn't support the damn developer.
Well,
like guys like me have been saying, you dudes talk. More so
they play Twitter. They
buy
play
games,
Twitter,
and that's the problem.
Yeah, they play social media, but they don't play games, and that's a major problem.
And
but
they
I will
see your credentials.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's why everyone can see how many trophies I have and how many.
Don't go there with Bet, man. Bet'll smash everybody. He's probably got more than all y'all.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying.
Platinum trophy game is
they're the same ones that want to see
I'm
all
one of those
your
dudes that can take a
credentials.
long hiatus and still come back and have enough time to
Indeed. Indeed. But listen, folks, I want to thank everyone. Man, we had over 300 people here today for the first Xbox, the first Breakfast with Boom of 2022. We got an extra topic in, which was fantastic. I had only written the show for 3, but we were able to pull the 4th one. So you had a total of 4 topics, and we didn't go too past the 2 hours. I want to thank everyone that dropped the super chat in. The generosity is just not to be believed, and it's extremely welcomed, and I am extremely grateful for it. With these donations that you drop in, whether it be through a super chat or channel membership, it does allow Mrs. Boom and I to continue to deliver on the giveaways that we did. And this past Christmas, we gave over $1,000 worth away of stuff, and that's powered by us putting away the super chats for the year, because obviously I'm retired, so it's just one pay coming in, and you obviously have to manage your money well. But I want to get everyone out of here. I want to wish everyone a fantastic weekend. Let's get to the outros, and we'll start first with Fuzzy Belvedere. By all means, brother, sell your brand. Tell everyone where they can check out your YouTube channel and check you out on the socials.
Well, I want to thank you, Boom, for having me on, and thank the panel. Man, you guys are awesome. Thank the chat for showing up and being awesome out here and having this great conversation. For anybody interested in my ramblings on anything gaming related, you can always find me on Twitter at Fuzzy_Belvedere. As far as gaming, at Fuzzy_Belvedere on PSN, Fuzzy Space Belvedere on Xbox Live. You can catch me on Mondays with Mav, Fun Speculation on his channel for tidbits, game reviews, and like the weekend releases. And then on Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern on Fun Speculation Podcast, FSP Podcast at 6 p.m. Eastern with Gaming Key and Mav. And then later on that night, 8 p.m. with my brother PTK Blam, Pong Soul, and Centurion 1307 for the Shop Podcast. Thank you guys so much. Awesome being here. Thanks.
Well, it's great to have you as always. And Dreadpool, by all means, brother, tell everyone about Breaking Bread with Dread, when that's coming back in a big way, and where could people check out your YouTube channel and check you out on the socials?
Yes, Breaking Bread with Dread is on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, just about any podcast. I found out that it's redistributed on like 17 different places.
Nice.
So it's growing. I'm planning on doing one this month, and I have another one next month, and I also have Fastback in March that's planning to show up. So there's a few community members. So it's growing. It's still, with the pandemic, it's still a little difficult with the travel and and everything. But we're doing what we can, and hopefully we can get up there to New York and Connecticut and see you guys, because Atlanta is not that far away from me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could stay in my spare bedroom, bro.
That's what I said.
Funny thing is, I'm in Atlanta. That's a sad part.
That's why I said that. I looked at you saying that. So,
Yes.
But yeah, it's just we gotta once everything is easier for traveling and not have to worry about anybody getting sick or getting anybody else sick, then we'll do that. But as always, the chat, you guys are awesome. I love that you guys like to go back and forth and keep it civil for the most part. And for whatever reason, don't click those other links that aren't links. All right.
Yeah, we're trying to block them as much as we can. There's some a-hole that keeps dropping these.
Yeah. So
hey, nude pic things.
So
if you see
smart.
it and you're a mod, just ban them immediately.
Yeah. If you guys are mods, ban them. Don't even mess with it. But I just don't want to see anybody on YouTube get screwed over by these idiots.
Yeah.
That being said, you can find me Wednesday nights at Game and Beyond the Box at 8 p.m. We have quite a few interviews lined up this month and next month. The first one, which is for the creator feature, is Saturday, January 15th. We have Mike Mullis from Original Next Level Gaming. So take a look out for that. And as always, Friday mornings right here. And you get to sometimes find out what I have for breakfast before.
Yeah, indeed, we're always very interested to see, because sometimes you get elaborate and you eat like really really good stuff, and you're like, man, I'm hungry now. Damn show just started.
And then today's a disappointment.
Yeah, sorry guys. All I had was coffee and some hash brown.
Has some Fruit Loops.
I love it. That's great. Listen, Crispy, let's get you on out of here. Tell everyone what other shows you're on and where could people reach out to you and potentially strike up a conversation on social media.
Shout out to the chat. Shout out to you gentlemen as usual. Is Fuzzy really a guest anymore, Boom? I don't know, man.
I don't know. I think he's a regular panel member. I would agree. I would absolutely agree with that.
At Crispy Bomb on Twitter, Crispy Bomb 28 Xbox Live. You can find me on Retro Renegades Tuesday night, 7 p.m. We got the next podcast Thursday, 8 p.m. prime time. And of course, back here on Breakfast with Boom Friday, 10 a.m. Yeah, be safe, be well, and enjoy your weekend.
Yes, and last and no way least, I've saved him for last because he has something going on that I want him to go into to tell people about. BitCloud Gaming, always great to work with you, brother. By all means, sell your brand and tell everyone who you got lined up for a guest today, later this afternoon. It's a big one.
Oh, Boom's excited for this one.
Oh, absolutely.
Today, we welcome back Microsoft's Kate Yeager for the show. We're going to talk about everything, this VR, all that stuff. We're going to break all that stuff down, see what's up, and get her opinions, the whole 9 yards. That's my channel, BitCloud Gaming. I have a lot of stuff planned for 2022. I now officially have my own separate team with IGN, so that's going to be a lot of crazy stuff that's right now happening this year. So shout out to everybody in the chat. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and all of you enjoy your weekend, and y'all be safe. Thank you for watching.
Pat, thank you so much. And of course, I'm going to close out the show, folks, with something that is important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were very young. And he said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, Craig. And I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. And we'll see you next week.